This is one sad-looking table. We're throwing this away, right?
No way, the table is solid. It's just the top that's a little bit worn and damaged. Today, we're gonna give it new life and a beautiful finish with Formica Laminate.
I'm up for the challenge. Let's get started.
To complete this project, you'll need a flat, sturdy surface to work on, a drop cloth, safety glasses, dust mask and gloves, household degreasing cleaner and paper towels, wood filler and putty knife, electric detail sander with a 150 to 220 grit sandpaper, Formica laminate in your chosen pattern and color, measuring tape and straight edge, permanent fine tip marker,
Jigsaw with fine-tooth down-cut blade, 2-inch masking tape, lint-free cloth, solvent-based contact cement spray adhesive, router with ball-bearing piloted bit, dowel rods or indexing sticks, J-roller, a fine-tooth mill file, and 100% acetone.
Before beginning, read the adhesive precautions and directions, and cover your floor with the drop cloth. The steps we're demonstrating will only work for a surface with self or square edges and laminate that isn't loose or peeling away. Begin by cleaning the surface with your degreasing cleaner and give it a minute to dry. You'll risk not getting a good bond in the next step if the surface isn't clean. Next, fill any holes or depressed areas in the top with wood filler. If you don't fill the holes, you'll see a dent after you put the new laminate on. Pile the filler a little high and spread it with a putty knife. Let the filler dry according to the manufacturer's instructions. Once the wood filler is dry, sand those areas until they are flush with the rest of the top. Then use the detail sander to rough up the entire surface. If any other raised areas exist, like glue spots or resin, sand these down until they are flush with the rest of the top. Sanding the top and the edges ensures a good bond of the new material. You've sanded enough when the entire surface looks dull and the filled areas are flat. Then, clean the surface again with your degreasing cleaner to remove all dust and dirt and ensure a good bond. Give the top at least an hour to dry completely after cleaning. Notice the difference in this before and after shot. The surface is now dull and smooth. Now we're ready to cut the laminate.
So we just cut it to the same size as the tabletop.
Well, actually no. You want to be sure that the laminate is 3/8 to 1/2 inch larger than the surface on all sides, so you'll have enough coverage. We'll trim the excess off later. Write down the measurements for the top and the sides, and mark the measurements on your laminate. Starting with the edge strips, place masking tape along your cut line to avoid chipping during cutting, and redraw your cut line on top of the masking tape. Then, cut the laminate face up with a jigsaw using a fine-tooth down-cut blade. Make sure you're cutting on a flat, sturdy surface and you have someone to help hold down the laminate. When your edges are cut, remove the tape. Always put your edge strips on first, beginning with opposite sides. We'll cover just the top perimeter of the table with masking tape to save cleanup time in case we overspray. Then, wipe all surfaces with a dry, lint-free cloth to remove any dust. Dust can show up as a dimple or bump when the laminate is applied. Now, spray the solvent-based contact cement on the edge piece and on the corresponding table edge. Follow the adhesive manufacturer's guidelines and make sure you have full coverage. Let the adhesive get tacky. When you test it, it shouldn't come off on your hand. Apply the edge strip by hand, working from the middle out. There should be overhang on all sides. Use a J-roller to apply pressure to bond the laminate to the table edge. Be careful not to crack the overhanging edges when rolling. Trim the excess material using a router with a ball-bearing piloted bit, always cutting at a right angle. This type of router has a bearing guide, so you can adjust the bit to the thickness of the laminate for a nice flush cut. Now, remove the tape and file, held at an angle and using an even, consistent motion to gently smooth out any proud or rough edges. Keep in mind, it's really easy to overfile, so make sure you only file until all the edges are smooth to the touch. Use the sander if there are any areas of overspray on the top. Now, use a clean, dry, lint-free cloth to dust off any particles from trimming and sanding, and follow the same steps for the other edges. Just like when cutting the edge pieces, place masking tape on the laminate along your cut line to avoid chipping during cutting, and cut face up with the jigsaw. Remove the tape, clean the surface with a dry cloth and spray the laminate and the tabletop, making sure you have full coverage. When the adhesive is tacky, place your dowel rods 10 to 12 inches apart on the table surface and put the laminate on top of the dowel rods. Be sure to align the surfaces so the overhang is parallel with the tabletop. Now, slide the dowel rods out, starting in the middle, smoothing the surface with your hands as you go. Once all the dowel rods are out, apply pressure with the J-roller. When you use the J-roller on the tabletop, again, be careful not to put too much pressure near the overhanging edges or they might break. Now, trim with the router and gently file the top edges, if needed, until they are flush with the edge strips. Use acetone to remove any overspray or excess adhesive seeping out after all the surfaces are bonded. Now we let it dry for at least 24 to 48 hours and our new old table is ready to use.
And I am so glad we didn't throw this away.
With Formica Laminate, you can reclaim your vintage furniture and give it a fresh, new look. Find out more at Formica.com.